if you really care to know. I'm a mess.
I would love to ask you questions about
you can ask me anything. There's nothing
your mental health, because I love to dive deep with what people are going through, and I would love to learn from them. So not only could I learn from the experience, but maybe we could learn together about it.
I think that in life, there isn't anybody in life that at some point, they're going to need an outside force to help them cope.
I use the Lord.
Right. Whoa. We just got a sign.
Whoa.
You mentioned his name and
let there be light.
And let there be light. Wow. Wow.
I use the Lord.
I wasn't like a firm believer until
good.
Oh my gosh.
Whatever it takes. I paid him $20.
But I believe that. I believe that whether you are getting your strength and your coping skills from your religion, I respect it, and I respect wherever it is, or whether you're getting your coping skills from a paid therapist and pharmaceuticals. I respect that. Whatever you need to maintain, and be productive as a human being, in as far as being a good human being, being a functioning human being, and being a good human being, I'm a proponent of. And I don't think there's any, because I've been so verbal about specific mental health issues like OCD and anxiety and depression, I think that, that just skims the surface of what the human psyche goes through, whether it's a breakup, or whether it's losing somebody you care about, or whether it's the amount of pressure at work, or failure at work, or failure in life, or not being able to achieve something, or just how do we cope with these things? And, you, as you say, and you and millions of others pray, and find strength and garner strength from outside. And
have you ever tried praying?
Have I tried praying? My kind of interpretation of religion is very personal to me, in the sense that the short answer is yes. As a Jew, I'm a Jew. So as a Jew, we believe in whatever you want to call, whatever name you want to put to whatever the Lord is, and is respect for a power greater than you, and I think as long as you have respect for a power greater than you, and you question it and talk to it and include that in your life, that's a good thing to do, because it can't just be all just this. Mm-hmm. It can't be, and sometimes you need to go outside of yourself to get a perspective on what you're doing yourself and what the world is, and you need help, and sometimes you get that help from your church, sometimes you get that help from a friend, sometimes you get that help from a loved one, sometimes you get that help from a child. Sometimes it comes to you in various ways, but I think ultimately it is all controlled by a power greater than us.
I 1,000,000% agree with you. My perspective on it that I wrote down was, I was watching you in a few interviews before we jumped on ours to make sure I don't want to recover things you've talked about. I want to keep it fresh.
Okay.
But when I saw you talking about your anxiety, I noticed a lot of traits that I dealt with. When I had these thoughts, sometimes they hyper spin in my head. So by time we said, hey, how are you? I've already thought of 10 conclusions of where this is going to go. And if I focus on the negative, I could put myself in a really bad hole, and it cripples me. And so when I fell in love with the Bible, I fell in love with a Bible verse that says, cast your anxieties onto me. And you just said that there's a power greater than you. And I've came to learn in my life that a man is going to fear regardless. So a man could either fear the Lord and begin wisdom, or he could fear everything else and not the Lord. So I chose to fear the Lord. And through that, I learned how to cope with my anxiety and depression through the scripture.
Except and I'm not arguing.
No,
I'm
no
not-
argument, just a conversation. So I will never be offended by
The
anything you
one
say.
thing that I bump up against is the word fear.
Okay, but can I ask you why?
Because fear is a negative connotation, and life, every thing we do in life. See, my take on life is, we as human beings are this, for all intents and purposes, a super being as far as
Homo sapiens sapiens.
Okay. There you go. Thanks. So anyway, but I think what puts us above some of the other creatures that inhabit this planet, that as rather than human beings, is we have this innate ability to instinct. Our instinct is far superior than that of some other creatures. And that instinct, that curiosity, that instinct that if we try this, we're going to invent the wheel. If we try this and do this, instinctually, we got fire. That's how we have electricity. That's why we're landing on other planets. That's why that is instinctually, this makes sense to some people. The problem that we have as a species is our thought process. And our thought process overrides our instinct. And our thought process creates fear. If you have an idea and you want to do something, you should do it. And that's why I love my favorite, Nike has that saying, just do it, which I learned on my podcast from Penn Jillette, came from somebody, a murderer that was about to be executed, and he was in front of the firing squad. I can't remember his name, but he said, just do it.
That was his last words.
Yeah, that's where Nike got it from. So it doesn't have the same. It doesn't have the same connotation.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
That's the hardest line to be your last line. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
well, do you have any final words?
Just do it.
Yeah, he wanted to get it over with. He's got 20 guns aimed at his head.
Well, the anxiety, you know what I mean? The like awaiting anxiety.
But my point is that if you negate fear. If you can negate fear and just do it, you will move ahead in life and do great things. If you have an idea about something and then think about it, there are a million reasons, kind of like what you just depicted about walking into a room. If you think, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. Oh, he's going to be nervous, and then I'm not going to. So then maybe you didn't say something that would have been the right thing to say just because you were so afraid to not say. So fear doesn't move you ahead. Fear never moves you ahead. And in fact, that's why my career, I'm close to 70. My career is still moving ahead because I say yes. I'm more, if I have any fear, it's of no. It's of not doing something. I know that when I say yes, I could fail. But even if I fail, then at least I failed and have an experience and an education as to how to maybe do that the next time or to not do that the next time. But if I say no is N-O, which is the first two letters in nothing. You know, Christopher Columbus talked people into getting into a boat and flying and sailing off the edge of the earth. You know, if you really would have, common thought was that the earth was flat. Most people thought that. If fear took over, if reasoning took over, he would have never gotten the boat. We wouldn't be sitting here today on this podcast. So my feeling toward this power greater than us, regardless of what you call it and what religion you are in, is something to be respectful of, is something to be in awe of, is something to be aware of, but not something to be afraid of. And that's where religion kind of knocks me out. I'm not involved, even though I was born a Jew, I'm not involved in any organized religion. And in organized religion, you have these rules. You know, and in life, we have these rules. I think I want to be the best human being I could possibly be. I want, when somebody spends a little bit of time with me, and this is what I say to my kids, I want them to have an experience where maybe their life is just a little bit better because in some way the experience was positive in the time they spent with me. I don't want to be nice and charitable so I don't go to hell, so that I won't be punished. That's not the reason to be positive in my mind.
May I?
Go.
Okay, so I love your perspective. I would just love to share this point of view.
Okay.
Fear, I look at it in a very different way. I see the way you look at it, and I think that the devil uses the fear that way. For example, I think it's very wrong for a Christian or a Catholic or anybody in any denomination to be like, you're going to go to hell unless you blah, blah, blah. And then that fear, that's fake love. That's not real love. And so the definition—
I don't see any love in that.
There's no love in that.
Right.
There's zero love in that.
Right.
But the fear that is described to me full vividly in my heart is the same fear that I have of disappointing my parents. It's not because I'm scared they're going to beat me. It's because I don't want to hurt them.
Right.
So I'm scared as a teenager in high school to dabble in drugs because it's cool, because I don't want my mom to get a call one day because her son overdosed.
Right.
So I'm fearful of that. And through my stupidity in high school, I used fear to not disappoint my parents, to correctly walk in a path that they would be proud of. And through that, I made choices that I'm proud of till this day, because I'm glad I didn't get into that substance. I'm glad I didn't hang out with that crowd. I'm glad I didn't go do that cheating way to get ahead. And through that fear, I found wisdom on why I shouldn't already have done it.
Okay.
And that's the only fear I talk about. And that's the only fear that the Bible talks about. The whole relationship is like an invitation. He's not coming.
But you were saying fear of the Lord.
Fear of the Lord, the same way I have the fear of my father. I don't.
But I understand why you don't want to
disappoint them. That's fear. I'm terrified. I'd rather you, Howie, kill me than ever to stand before my parents and have them look at me with sorrow eyes of who I became. It would never happen. And that's the fear that I work on.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
You're a good boy.
I appreciate it.
He's a very good boy.
You're a good boy.